Come on. Oh, there we go. Okay, and I think I shared this PowerPoint, so if you guys miss anything or need to go back and look at something, you guys are good. Okay, so just kind of get this down. We're going to talk about it. I'm going to go back over the notes you've already taken. And then we'll go from there, and I'll just start doing some examples. I better check my heart rate. I check it all the time anyway. Yesterday I was stressed out as 116. It's fine. When it shoots up to about 190, I get concerned.
Is this all because of coffee?
No. No, there's something wrong with my heart in the sense that my pulse will quicken like up to like 200 for no apparent reason. I'll be doing nothing. And it does, and all I do is just clench my fists and close my eyes and just kind of clench, and then it stops and it goes right back to what it was. It's weird. I didn't think it was an issue. I've dealt with it my whole life. I didn't know what it was. It went away. And then one time I couldn't make it go away. So then I end up in the ER. I'm like, I can't bring this down. It's 210. And they go, oh. So then they just stop your heart and start it again. I'm like, okay, sounds good. But yeah, I usually can fix it. But now I got those beta blockers, so now I can just pop a pill if I can't.
They like, how you try turning it off and turning it back on again? That's like what they did to your heart.
Oh, they did.
Have you tried putting it in rice like that? Like it's like basically like a tech support.
They counted down. 2 nurses together counted down. It's like one stopped it, one started it right back up. They have the whole crash cart hooked up to you in case that didn't work. I'm like, I don't even know what's going on. Just do it. And then I thought, what if I die in the ER right now? Oh my God. I'll be able to go to the pool today.
Oh, this is gonna be the equivalent of Carol Shelby popping nitrogen pills all day. Every 5 minutes, you want to
You're like, I think now would be a great time to do this coffee that's making everyone concerned about their hearts.
I know. Isn't that great? I'm fine. I'm fine.
Are you going to hide the pills you're getting? That's gonna look.
No one's gonna know. I mean, I told you guys, but no one else is gonna know. Just beta blockers. It'd be fine. Okay. All right. So, like I said before, you guys have done something like this before in Algebra 2. Okay, where you added things that do a common denominator, you simplified stuff, you factored, you FOILed, you did all this stuff in Algebra 2. Okay, so now I'm just taking a different approach to it because I'm looking at it with trigonometry stuff. So what you're going to have is you're going to have an equation, and one side is going to kind of look more complicated. You'll know what I mean by more complicated than the other. And basically, I want to simplify the more complicated. So it's kind of like you have the answer. It's just, can I get to that answer? So like I said, you did this in Algebra 2, but it didn't have to do with trig. Now it just has to do with trig. So in the end, you do have the answer. It's just, can I get there? All right. I would change everything over to sine and cosine as much as you could. Okay. If you have a proportion, cross multiply and go from there. You can factor, you can FOIL, you can substitute. Anything you do in algebra, you can do right here with trig. And it's kind of like solving a puzzle. Like in the end, I have the answer. The answer's sitting right there. Can I get there? Okay. Is there more than one way to solve these problems? Yes. I probably would say do not look at the answers because sometimes they take the longest route possible to get somewhere, and I always try to find the quickest. So I'd advise you not to take pictures of the answers. It's easier if you just try, do, and if you get stuck, that's when you raise your hand. I'm the shortcut queen. I'm always looking for the shortcut. But if you don't see stuff, I just work it with you. Okay, so now I want to go back to notes that you took the other day. Okay, these. I said, hey, we're not using these today because we used those. So to kind of have these handy. So if you're given something like secant, okay, I can substitute in 1 over cosine. If I'm given something like cosecant, I can substitute in 1 over sine. Because I said your main thing is to kind of change these all into sine and cosine as much as you can. The next thing, you notice I kind of left tan alone. Because on here, where I see tan, I can just substitute in sine over cosine. They give me the same answer there. Okay, if I have cotangent, I can substitute in cosine over sine. Okay, you have these down. You wrote these down the other day. The Pythagorean, the main one you're going to want is that top one. So if you end up with sine squared plus cosine squared, you can eliminate that and put in a 1. Okay. The bottom ones, not so much. But I would have these handy in front of you. So where you wrote that, and that, kind of have that there. Oops, we don't need that. Okay, I'm not going to do the examples up here. I'm just going to, I already wrote them down. Okay. So here's the first one we're going to look at. So just write this down. Fine. Now, who knows? I don't know. 47 years old. I'm just falling apart, man. Okay. Where's mine? Okay. So what I said was kind of change everything to sine and cosine, and then we'll kind of go from there. So what can I put in place of cosecant? Go look at your reciprocal stuff. What can I put? What can I put? Mm-hmm.
1 over sine.
Yeah, 1 over sine. Where's my thing? Where's it at here? Okay, so right here, you see a cosecant. I can change that into 1 over sine. Okay. Don't worry about the bottom one. That's just my next problem. I guess I can cover that up so you don't have to look at it. What about cotangent? What can I change that in 2, and you want to change it into sine and cosine as much as you can. What could I plug in for cotangent?
1 over tangent.
No, you want to change it into sine and cosine as much as you can. It's right there in your notes. It's right. Boom. Right there. What can I put in for cotangent? Cosine over sine, right? Okay. Now, if even you want to change this, what could I change here just to get everything into sine and cosine? Go back to your first 6.
1 over cosine.
Hey, 1 over cos. Okay, so I said go in there and change everything to sine and cosine as much as you can, and most times, yeah, you can change it all into sine and cosine. Okay, now obviously over here, this is my more complicated side. So this is my answer, so I'm going to get this here. How do you divide fractions? What's the thing you like to say when I say how do you divide fractions? Copy dot flip. So you copy that top one. You flip over the bottom one. Okay. What's alike on top and bottom that'll cancel out? Okay. So this right here was kind of where I was going. It's like, well, that's kind of my answer. Can I get this side to look like that? Like I said, you did this in Algebra 2. I'm just doing it with Trig. That's all I'm doing. And then I'm done. Just kind of like, well, here's where I'm trying to get to. If I can get that. Now, sometimes when you guys do these, you kind of get stuck, and that's where I come in and help a little bit. And then that's it. You're just getting the one side to kind of look like the other. It looked different in Algebra 2. And once you can get both sides equal, done. Okay, so write this next one. If they replace the x's with thetas, same thing. Maybe in my mass email to other teachers, I should have told them that there was a lot of caffeine.
I think at least 3 of them think you're driving with it
Are
now.
you a dealer?
Let them figure it out on their own.
Should have said maybe do this Saturday when you're not.
Nah.
Did you give it to everyone?
I am a dealer of coffee. Yes.
Live and let learn, right?
Were you the one posting it on Facebook? Some coffee or something? 'Cause
I have, yeah.
My dad was listening to a video yesterday. I thought that whoever it was, this is like a pyramid scheme or something. I
Oh.
didn't really understand what was going on.
No, it was me on the video. Yeah.
Are you in a pyramid scheme?
No, it's not a pyramid scheme.
That's what it's going for.
It's the opposite of a pyramid scheme.
It's a triangle scheme.
Upside down.
Okay, I'm not Bernie Madoff. Okay. Okay, obviously this right here is the more complicated side. Obviously, because that's just a 1. There's nothing I'm going to do over there. Okay, so I said change everything into sine and cosine as much as you can. Well, this is already cosine, so there's nothing I can do here. It's already how I want it. What can I put in for cosecant? So I can put, 1 over sine. And remember, this just is multiply. What can I put in for tan?
Sine over cosine.
Yep. Change it into sine and cosine as much as you can. And I can't do anything with the 1. If it would make you feel better, because you have cos and then fraction, if it really makes you feel better, slap a 1 underneath there just so you know you would leave that up top and not try to put stuff up top and down below. Don't be that kid. Okay, now, what's alike on top and bottom that cancel out? What cancels? Everything. Cos over cos is 1. Sine over sine is 1. So I got that whole side to equal 1. It's simplifying one side to kind of look like the other. But like I said, algebra 2, it looks different because you didn't have trig. You were doing other things. Okay. I really just have a bunch of examples. I'm just kind of showing you some different things today. And usually when I start off with this, it's just kind of a few problems. And then we'll do a little bit more with it. Oops. Okay, now, like I said change everything sine and cosine as much as you can, and that could be both sides on there. Obviously, you know what side we're going to actually be doing a lot more work to, but we're all good here. Okay, cosine is good. I'm just going to leave that there. Cotangent, what am I going to change that to? Cosine over sine. This is already, so I'm good there. What can I do over here? Okay, now, if I come over here, slap a little 1 underneath there, and actually multiply these two things, because nothing cancels out right here. Because remember, in order to simplify something or cancel something, it has to be top and bottom. Well, these are both up top. So the only thing I got here is when I multiply them, it's just something squared. Okay, so that's all I can do right there. I can't, remember, if you're simplifying a fraction, it's because something was up top and down below that you could kind of cancel out there. Okay, so I'm going to take a little side note right over here. You don't need to write this down. If I was going to tell you to add 1/2 and 1/3, what do you need in order to add fractions? You need a common denominator. You can't just add 1/2 and 1/3 and get 2/5. 2/5 is less than half, number 1. So, okay. So what you needed right here was a common denominator. So if I had the numbers 2 and 3, you guys would say, hey, it's 6. And so you would do this, and don't copy this down. And then you would do this. And then you would have 3/6 plus 2/6, and you would have ended up with 5/6. Okay, that's what you would do if I said, hey, how do you add 2 fractions? Okay, so back over here. I have 2 fractions. And if you really want to put a 1 there, you can put a 1 there. I have 2 fractions, and they don't have a common denominator. Well, since this one doesn't really have a common denominator, it just has a 1 there, and this has sine. Well, all I'm going to do is just come over here and multiply top and bottom times sine. That's my common denominator. If one says sine and one says 1, I only got one option there. Okay. So if I do this, and now if I multiply this, Okay, so if I actually just multiply that out and write it, I'm good there. Oop, I just ran out of room. Okay, so now if I add these two things, oh man, I ran out of room. I ran out of room on my paper. Where am I at here? I'm gonna write this better. Okay. Whoops. Okay, so when I added those two things, this is what I ended up with, correct? Remember, if they have the same, if you go back here, if I had 3/6 plus 2/6, that gave me 5/6, the denominator stays the same. Okay? All right, what can I substitute in for cosine squared plus sine squared? Look at your squared stuff. It's just one. It's just one. So it doesn't matter that it says cos squared plus sine squared. And you have written down sine squared plus cosine squared, you're adding. So that's one, and that's where I wanted to be. That's what I have at the very top. Okay. So when you're adding fractions, subtracting fractions, you need a common denominator. When you're multiplying, you just go straight across. When you're dividing, you do the copy dot flip. You're good there. But adding and subtracting, you did a common denominator. What we got there? Okay. Here is your next one. These are all on the slides in the PowerPoint stuff, but I'm not worried about those right now. Okay, now before you start thinking substituting stuff, don't do anything just yet. Just write this one down. And I'll tell you why in just a minute. So don't start doing, I know some of you already like, oh, I can substitute here and I can, but just hold off for 1 second. Okay, so the first thing I would do up here, just because you have parentheses, is I would get rid of the parentheses before you start substituting stuff. Because what's going to happen is if you FOIL after you do that, then you're foiling a bunch of fractions, and you probably don't want to do that. So what we're going to do is, just like you would do in Algebra 2, we're going to FOIL. So if I take 1 times this, I'll just get that. If I take 1 times this, I get that. I'm going to get rid of my parentheses, and then I'll do all that substituting. Now I'm just going to take cos. And then I'm going to take cos times that. And that one over there is already, I don't even have to deal with it. It's already signed. We're fine. Okay, so if you change everything first and then multiply, you're just going to multiply fractions, and you probably don't want to do that. So I would get rid of the parentheses, and then now go with this. What can I put in here? Cosecant. Okay. What can I put in there? Cotangent. Okay, this one is already a cos right there. What can I put in? Oh, we already did it back here, so I'm just. And then I have, and actually I made that substitution back here. So if I change everything over, the first one you told me is 1 over sine. The second one you told me was cos over sine. And then I ended up doing that same thing again. It's just I had some other stuff there. All right. So if I just kind of clean that up. And this next, if you just multiply that, you get and if you want to slap a 1 underneath anything that doesn't look like a fraction, we'd be dealing with fractions, do it. Okay, so I just cleaned it up. I actually just multiplied the third term stuff, and then I multiplied the fourth term stuff, and there's where I'm at. Look at those two middle terms. What can you tell me? They what? They're the same. One of them's positive and one of them's negative, right? So if you have -2 and +2, what do you have? If you have -2 and +2, you have 0. So if I have minus this and plus this, so that's just 0. Okay. All right. Look at the two things I have left. Do they have the same denominator? All right. So I didn't have to do a common denominator. They already have one there. So I just combined them. Okay. Now remember, we're getting there. So I'm going to, right here, do a little sidebar. You don't have to write this right now here. Okay, so this is kind of my little sidebar right here. Okay, so what I have is 1 minus cosine squared, and I want to substitute something in there. And the only thing I do know is sine squared plus cosine squared equals 1. So if I move this over here, what's it become? Louder. 1 minus cosine. Okay, because I didn't have this. But if I can make this kind of look like that one right there, so if I just move that over, it'd become minus when you move it across the equal sign. So now wherever I see 1 minus cosine squared, I can substitute in what? There you go. You can manipulate stuff. Okay, so this right here, I'll just back that up there. I didn't have quite that, but if I move this over to the other side, I just move some things around. Now I have that. So wherever I see this, I can plug in that. What's it like on top and bottom that cancels out? What's it like on top and bottom cancels out? Sine. So one of this one right here will knock out one of those. Remember, if it's sine squared, it was just sine times sine. So it would just knock out one of them. Okay. Maybe that one. Don't do anything before you do this one either. Okay. Now, anytime I have stuff with squared, see if you can kind of shorten that up a little bit. So, look at your squared stuff. What can I put in for 1 plus tan squared? Bless you.
Thank you.
Twice. What can I put in for 1 plus tan squared? Okay, just to make it a little less complicated here. Now, look at your left-hand side. What can I simplify? Okay, that one right here will knock out one of those. So now instead of 2, I just have the 1. Now, change everything to sine and cosine as much as you can. Anytime you see stuff with squared, I kind of try to get rid of it. Okay, what can I plug in for just secant? One over cos. Yeah. Because the squared's gone, because that 1 knocked out one of those, so it just left you 1 up there. What can I put in the bottom? And then if you want to change this one over here to this, change it. A lot of times I say change it all. How do you divide fractions? Copy, dot, flip. And then when you multiply those things, you end up with sine over cosine. That's where you were heading. A lot of times when I let you, because sometimes you guys will, I'm not sure how to start it. I said, well, just start doing something. Just start substituting stuff in there. Foil some things to see what you can kind of do there. And so a lot of kids here, if I give them this, they'll say 1 plus and they'll say sine squared over cosine squared. Because that's what I said to do. It doesn't matter. You'll still get there. You're just going to deal with more fractions. Okay. This is the last example I have for you. Last example I have for you, and just go ahead and foil it. See if you can foil that and put in the substitutions, and then we'll go from there. So anytime you have parentheses, yeah, kind of get rid of them. go ahead and foil, substitute. Because really on that, you're just looking for, just in those substitution things we've been, oh, there it is. I think that's what I want. Forgot to put graph paper on there. All right, I'm gonna foil. Oops, that's a minus sign. Okay. So if you foil, just secant times both, -10 times both. That's that next line. Just straight up algebra 1 foiling. Next sign, I just went through and changed everything over. So see, you had 1 over cos, and then 1 over cos, and then sine was there. Sine over cos, and then minus sine over cos, and sine was there. Okay, so if you just foiled and substituted in that, and like I said, you're just really looking in those 3 areas of notes. You're looking in the reciprocal stuff, which a lot of it is just the 1 over cos, 1 over sine stuff. That's really what you're using out of there most of the time. For tan and cotan, well, that's when you went to the next little group that you did, because that got it sine and cosine, and then the reciprocal stuff. Okay, so what's going to happen there? When I multiply this, what do I get? I have a positive sine over cos, and this is a negative sine over cos. What's going to happen here? What's plus 2 minus 2? Okay. That's just 0. Okay. If I multiply that, they give me sine squared. They both had a cos. They both had a same denominator. We're good. Okay, so if you see a positive negative of the exact same thing, that's just 0. That's just like plus 2 minus 2. Gives you 0. All right. Let's go back to okay, let's go back to this. I need 1 minus sign. So if I take that to the other side, what can I plug in for 1 minus sine squared? That right there. And then one of those will cancel out one of those, and you're done. That's the wrong thing. Okay. So let's go here. Let's go here. I'm going to give you just a few to just try it out. Okay. Okay, so we're going to go. What time is it? I'm going to give you those three right now. And basically what I want you to just try something. Just try something. And even if you get stuck, like I just don't know what to do from here, I just try something. This isn't the whole assignment from, sorry, Lise. I kind of forgot you right there. Okay. I'm gonna stop this. Stop recording.